Hello everyone, and thank you very much for your attention, for participating in this stream. It's community chat, traditional, and well, today is 7th of April. Now it's 6 o'clock in the evening Moscow time, and I have prepared a news update, short news update on some news that Russian media reported since today's first update. And if I may, I will start with this news update, and then I will get engaged with the community, and I will try to be as informative in my comments or answers as I possibly can. And let's go through some news first. Although let me open military map, just in case I forget to do this earlier. So, TASS news agencies report, dear friends, that settlement Katerinovka in Liman direction was liberated by Russian forces. And let me show you on the map location of this settlement. It's in Liman direction, so this is it. Katerinovka settlement is under full Russian control. According to reports, once again, Defense Ministry confirmed this. So I guess at least this part of the territory is also under Russian control, because Russian troops had to get to Katerinovka somehow, isn't it? I don't think it was an airborne operation, although, nothing can be ruled out, of course. And at the same time, according to a number of reports, Russian troops re-established control over the Lisovka settlement on Pokrovsk sector of the front line, and also Russian troops established control over the Troitskaya settlement, this tiny village here, which is also on the Toretsk sector of the front line. Troitskaya is on the southern western part, and Lisovka is on the southern eastern part of this agglomeration of Pokrovsk, Mirnograd. Let's go through some other news, and we have report that on a Kursk direction, on this borderline strip that is still not yet fully cleared from enemy forces, Kiev regime lost about 150 military personnel during the previous 24 hours. Also, today, many of you probably saw on my Telegram channel or Twitter X page that Russian armed forces knocked out yet another US-made M1A1 Abrams tank. I posted about it, and number of videos are circulating now about destruction of this Abrams. It's, if you are not familiar with their tanks, you might get mistaken, because there is a contact one all around the tank. Contact one is active defense. How it called? This is explosives, by the way. These cubes that you see on the tank. This is explosives actually, and when a projectile hits that particular area, these blocks should explode and minimize damage to their tank or penetrating force of their projectile. But in any case, clearly this is Abrams tank. You cannot mistake it for something else. I wonder how many battle-capable Abrams is left in Kiev regime's hands. Just a few, I guess. Also, TASS news agency is reporting that press spokesman of the Russian president today once again was asked about a truce or the ceasefire in regards to Ukrainian crisis, and Dmitry Peskov, press spokesman of the Russian president, stated that Russian president did not change his opinion. Russia is in favor of their ceasefire, although there is certain preconditions just to make sure that whatever agreements are reached will work, right? And until these conditions are not met, it is just a hypothetical to talk about a ceasefire, which is true, which is absolute true, of course. There was an agreement on energy ceasefire, isn't it? That was reached after a US president asked Russian colleague, Russian counterpart about it, and Russian president agreed, isn't it? On 18th of March that was. And since then, even though Russia is not carrying outstrikes on Kiev regime's energy infrastructure. Kiev regime does exactly the opposite, and literally on daily basis they are targeting energy infrastructure of the Russian Federation. Today I see reports that six different energy infrastructures was targeted by Kiev regime. There was attempt to target. So it's literally daily basis when Kiev regime is breaching this ceasefire. So therefore, clearly Russian side has a point, isn't it? That we need some mechanism to be put in place to make sure that ceasefire actually works. And one of the biggest issue that Russian side is highlighting is that Kiev regime is not in control of all the units that are armed on Kiev controlled territory, especially when it comes to these neo-Nazi formations that don't really care about any orders from Zelensky. They don't take orders from Zelensky. That's how it is, right? So therefore, as long as this is the situation and Kiev regime is not in control of their formations there, I mean, what is the point to constantly talk about ceasefire, right? It's just senseless waste of time. But in general, Moscow is in favor of ending their hostilities, of course, and Russia was very clear on that. And also, dear friends, RT reported today, and many other media outlets were reporting yesterday and day before, I believe. But I find it difficult to believe that this was really the case. But I mean, media continues to report on that. So therefore, I guess this is the truth, that head of Kiev regime's so-called main intelligence directorate, Kirill Budanov, during one of their interviews, stated that it is better that Ukrainians don't know the truth. He said it openly, by the way, during the interview. So many Ukrainians cannot handle the harsh reality of the conflict with Russia, and they should be kept in the dark about their details. Kiev's military intelligence chief has said. Three-star general, I mean, mass murderer, by the way, and terrorist. He is designated as a terrorist in the Russian Federation, and he is on a wanted list, and hopefully he will face court one day and will pay heavily for all the crimes that he committed. So this so-called three-star general, Kirill Budanov, expressed his views on information censorship during the wartime in a conversation with the journalist Anna Maximchuk on a Saturday, suggesting that much of the truth of their conflict should only become public knowledge to Ukrainians in the future. During the wartime, knowing the whole truth is not necessary, otherwise people may develop opinions. You see, dear friends, otherwise people may develop opinions, and they may stop obeying criminal orders from the criminal regime. Budanov said, some minds are not prepared to grasp their harsh reality. Let's not put them to the test. Everything should be dosed. So that's the attitude, by the way. And I guess somewhat similar approach is being developed in collective West countries in general. And the Kiev regime learned this from their Western masters, right? When there is a total censorship and people that are still living in a Kiev-controlled territory basically have no idea what is going on. That's how it is. Majority, I will guess. And one should know that there is no free media, by the way. All channels on internet or otherwise are censored, controlled heavily. And not just that, but if anybody shares any information, let's say if there is a airstrike or something, if anyone will make a video of that and share on internet, well, might end up in a jail, and there are many cases like that. If anyone dares to criticize regime online or even in private conversation and being called up, and if the security services were called on that post in social media or during the conversation in real life, person might end up in a prison. And yet again, there are many cases of that. So that's what they do, by the way. And no wonder these forcefully mobilized people that are sent to the battlefield, and according to some reports, about 60%, even higher than that, of the Kiev regime's troops now are forcefully mobilized. No wonder they have no idea what is going on, and they're they are unable to make adequate decisions due to lack of knowledge. That's how it is. RT is also reporting that EU could fund expensive weapons for Ukraine. So EU finance ministers will meet this week to discuss a new defense procurements and leasing mechanisms that could incorporate Ukraine, according to Reuters. Brussels plans to establish the European defense mechanism as a part of its multi-billion euro militarization initiative. During an informal meeting in Warsaw on Saturday, ministers are expected to review a paper prepared by the Bruegel think tank detailing their EDM's operations. Reuters reported on Monday. Today, the intergovernmental fund is designed to process its own capital to borrow money against them and could acquire costly weapon systems to lease to military forces. The EDM may also extend membership to non-EU countries such as the UK, Norway, and Ukraine. So European taxpayers should get prepared. By the way, they're gonna get robbed there even more, even bigger than they already been robbed by these bureaucrats, these corrupt officials in Europe. Also, interesting report from TASS news agency that Iran is ready for talks with US, although talks should take place through mediators. This was stated by Iran's foreign minister. So Iran believes it made a generous offer by agreeing to talks with the US through mediators and hopes Washington will accept the proposal. Iranian foreign minister spokesman Ismail Baghei stated, "We are awaiting a US decision and hope that Iran's generous offer of their indirect talks will be carefully considered. Their offer reflects Iran's goodwill to resolve their existing problems. We expect the other side to feel positive about this issue." So it was a statement of foreign ministry, not foreign minister. But it's official position of Iran, right? So they are ready for talks, although only through mediators because of the lack of trust into US leadership. And let's be real, dear friends, who trusts any government? I mean, tell me any government in the collective West countries, with the exception maybe of Hungary and Slovakia, that one may really trust. I cannot tell you, but it is official position of Iran, which is a constructive position, clearly, that they are ready to talk. And simultaneously, we have this statement from Tehran that Iran has no intention of developing nuclear weapons. They are repeating this time after time after time, and I really believe, dear friends, that Iran is not working on nuclear weapons. They don't need it. Nuclear weapons will not make Iran any more safer. Exactly opposite will happen, as I said many times before, because very same day that Iran will really start working on the nukes, Turkey gonna do the same, Saudi Arabia gonna do the same, potentially some other countries in the region, and this will definitely not make Iran any safer. It's just counterproductive, right? So I do believe that Iran has no intention to build the nuclear weapons, at least right now. Things might change sometime in the future, but now I don't think they are working or developing nuclear weapons. And when it comes to Iran's nuclear program, Russia, China, and Iran will hold their nuclear-related meeting in Moscow on April 7th and 8th, according to Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So trilateral consultations by Russia, China, and Iran on their Iranian nuclear program will be held in Moscow on April 7-8. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghei has stated, which is, good news also. Iran wants to communicate with US, but through mediators, and Moscow and Beijing definitely can provide this mediation. India may get involved also, because I believe India has a huge interest in stability in entire world and in the Middle East especially. So who knows? Maybe one day New Delhi will also join this group to de-escalate between Tehran and Washington. Although unfortunately, I don't think U.S. Leadership gonna listen to Tehran. I don't think they're gonna de-escalate. Exactly opposite is happening, and on daily basis, seems like we are getting closer and closer to this major war in the Middle East, with the involvement of Iran, US, potentially Israel, some other countries. Iran issued a official warning to its neighbors, that if they will provide airspace or assist in any way, shape, or form any attack on Iran by anybody, there will be some retaliation for that. So Iran is getting ready. Understandably so, but at the same time they are offering way out from this crisis. Talks through mediators. Will US take it? I mean, I don't know. We'll find out. But situation is definitely extremely dangerous. And Tucker Carlson also posted on that. And a few minutes ago, I shared his commentary on the matter on my Telegram and Twitter X page. This is what Tucker Carlson is writing. Whatever you think of tariffs, and of course tariff topic is a major one also now, it is clear that now is the worst possible time for the United States to participate in a military strike on Iran. We can't afford it. Thousands of Americans will die. We will lose their war that follows. Nothing would be more destructive to our country, and yet we are closer than ever thanks to unrelenting pressure from the neocons. This is suicidal. Anyone advocating for conflict with Iran is not an ally of the United States, but an enemy. And I could not agree more with Tucker Carlson. Anyone who is pushing US towards confrontation with Iran is definitely not a friend and not an ally of US citizens, but definitely enemy. I mean, one don't have to be genius to realize that. But yet again, unfortunately, pressure from public and society is quite little at this point in US on administration to de-escalate, and therefore, who knows? Most likely they will go ahead with their escalation, and it's gonna be devastating for a region, for all the participants in a escalation, and also for the world. RT is reporting that risk of recession in US has been risen up to 45% by Goldman Sachs. I believe our very same financial institution last week raised this forecast of on recession up to 35%, and now they are increasing it up to 45%, which can be seen as an indicator that US is just destined for recession, at least for next couple of years, most likely. And also, by the way, today all the markets worldwide crashed quite significantly. It started in Asia. Asian markets crashed one after another. It continued in Europe, and just about like few hours ago, US markets opened, and they're straight away into red. So they are losing also significantly. Last time I checked, they were in minus for 3-4%. Maybe now numbers are higher. But few hours ago they were in minus 3-4%, which in total amounts to hundreds of billions of dollars, obviously. So let's see what will happen. And due to this chaos on the markets, oil prices are also crashed, and for example, crude price have dropped below $64 per barrel for a barrel, and this is the lowest number in the last 4 years, according to some reports. who knows, maybe prices will go down even more than that because of the fear that it's not just US economy gonna enter recession, but entire world too. And US is a major economy, isn't it? So if US economy feels bad, then world economy will definitely feel that for sure. And dear friends, this is it when it comes to short summary. And now let's have a conversation about any topic really. And I can see questions from Nikos. So let's start with this question. I have a big question. Nikos is writing in parts. So read it all. Okay, I will. So Stanislav Krapivnik, Russian from Luhansk, who served in the US Army, has told the Duran that they should not underestimate Europe, particularly Germany and Merz and their military production. It seems that France, Germany, Britain, Poland, and the Baltics are especially Finland are all want to settle their historical scores with Russia like before. Russia does not have a population of their ex-Soviet Union, ex-Soviet nations with it. We know you won't use, you would not use nukes. You are not willing to. How can Russia defend against something like that? Well, it's a big question, isn't it? And it has several directions. If it comes to wider war between a number of European states and Russia, for example, ones that you mentioned, Nikos, there is several aspects. First is a technical aspect. For example, armies, militaries, and military equipment, and secondly is a manpower also, very important. When it comes to technical stuff, you mentioned that Russian from Lugansk, Stanislav Krapivnik, stated that we should not underestimate capabilities of the military-industrial complex of the Germany or any other country, by the way, for that matter. And this is true. I absolutely agree with that. Germany is still main industrial country in Europe, by the way. So how can we underestimate potential of the German economy if it will go on a war ladder completely? Well, they can produce a lot of weapons, by the way, not straight away, but they can produce a lot of weapons. They have technology, knowledge how to build highly sophisticated weapon systems. What they might face as an issue is that usually Western companies are over-engineering whatever military equipment they are building because they are making more money servicing this equipment because they know something gonna broke, isn't it? When things are over-engineered, something will broke anyways, right? So this is a big issue of the Western military equipment. It's extremely expensive, and it is even more expensive to maintain this equipment in a battle-ready mode, right? So therefore, even though yes, Germany, France, even UK, by the way, can produce a lot of weapons due to this over-engineering, level of production gonna be not as high as they would like. And one should keep in mind, by the way, that during the Second World War, Germany was producing in many cases, most advanced weapon systems, right? For example, Tiger tanks, Panther tanks, they were toughest tanks that existed at the time on the battlefield. But what was the main issue with those tanks? Poor reliability, isn't it? They were over-engineered. They were extremely heavy and over-engineered. And what is the main issue of modern armored vehicles of the West? They are extremely heavy and over-engineered, right? So school of building weapons did not really change. It became even more complicated, actually, in the West, and this might be the issue if it comes to, yet again, I mean, we are now discussing some hypothetical, right? Or if there will be wider war between the sides. So yes, they can produce a lot of weapons, but still way below marks that Russia can reach, and they're already is reaching, right? So it's an issue, right? You need the weapons to fight. So I don't think European countries right now are capable of reorganizing, you know, in a short period of time, in let's say 2-3 years time. If you give them 5-10 years, they will. But in short terms, like 2-3 years, I don't think they'll be able to reorganize and start producing in mass any type of weapons, really, especially complicated ones like tanks, armored personnel carriers, and so on. And the warehouses, by the way, in Europe are almost empty. You think these thousands of vehicles that Russians are destroying, Russian militaries, Russian fighters are destroying on the battlefield are coming from where? Mainly from Western warehouses, isn't it? This is a stockpile that they had. So therefore, I mean, I agree with Stanislaw Krapivnik that they have huge potential in Europe to increase production of the weapons, but in the long term, not in a short term, like 2-3 years. No, they're not going to be able to do so. And if wider war is going to be provoked by the globalists that are in charge of these very countries that you mentioned, if they're going to provoke wider war now, then you know, military industrial complex of Germany or France or UK not going to be much help for them, let's say. And that's technical stuff, right? In other hand, there is human resources. You are right. Russian population is significantly lower than Soviet Union's, and this is true. But I mean, yet again, one should look at the situation with a wider prism. I think society here in Russia is psychologically ready to fight, while in my personal opinion, society in the countries that you mentioned, in its mass, in its majority, is not ready to fight. And I don't think they're going to find many French citizens or many citizens in UK or in Germany that love to go to fight Russia and die somewhere in the fields of this so-called Ukraine. I mean, if you conduct some social experiment and ask first 100 people that you will see on the streets in Berlin, in Paris, or in London, would you like to go and fight Russians in Ukraine? Probably vast majority will say no. Hell no, right? So therefore, I mean, even though we should not underestimate capabilities of their hostile forces, but let's be real here. UK's army, by the way, will last. If entire UK's army is deployed on the battlefield right now, they will last about, I don't know, if it's a high intensity clashes, maybe months, maybe 2, and that's it. There will be no more British army, by the way, left. Same goes for French army, right? And numbers matters, by the way. British army is 70,000, right? So what 70,000 gonna do on a high intensity battle where on both sides hundreds of thousands of troops are fighting? Numbers that France, Germany can come up with, or UK, is just quite irrelevant. And I don't think they will succeed in a forceful mobilization, for example. Right? Because after all, even though there is a significant decline in Europe, I don't think European states will operate like EU regime does now, when they are kidnapping people on the streets, literally, and throwing them into trenches on the front line. I don't think French government will sign up for that, or British government. And they're not going to be much of volunteers. Is it true also, isn't it? So therefore, if we are objective, in my personal opinion, from standpoint of military equipment, Russia has an upper hand. From standpoint of manpower, Russia also has an upper hand, because I'm 100% convinced, by the way, if tomorrow Russian president makes a statement, will address public society here and said that we need to mobilize 1 million people, 2 million people. You know what you're gonna see on the streets? Queues, by the way. Queues. People will, I will go, by the way, of course. And many will go. It's not in question here, right? So we're not gonna have a manpower issue, as much as Western countries will have. And finally, you said that Russia will not use nukes. I would not be that sure about it. If globalists will provoke wider war with Russia, in that case, I would not be surprised at all if Moscow will conduct preemptive strikes to neutralize nuclear capabilities of France and UK. And also, as much military capabilities in general as it can be done with the preemptive strikes, right? And these preemptive strikes not necessarily have to be nuclear. I mean, Russia has some other means too, right? But it can be nuclear also, because the Russian nuclear doctrine says it quite clearly that if statehood is in danger, if millions of citizens of Russia are in danger, then president not just has a right to deploy whatever is necessary, but has an obligation to do so. So this is my answer, dear friend. Hopefully, answer was informative. But yet again, I agree with you. I agree with Stanislav Krapivnik that we should never underestimate hostile side. Never. Because it makes us weak. We should, maybe a little bit even overestimate, so that we are more ready. So, I'm telling you, currently European states that you mentioned have no chance. Literally, I mean, not even a theoretical chance. They will just get smashed, and badly. And hopefully it will not come to it. I mean, let's hope it will not come to it, man. But yet again, we all understand how crazy these globalists are, and they are capable of such provocations for sure, and they are pushing for it. I mean, once France and UK will start deploying large numbers of their troops, then one may say game is on, right? So let's go through some other comments. Once again, dear friends, hello everyone, and there are many thanks for participating in the streams, in the stream, and many thanks to everybody who will join later on or will watch this stream in a recording. And as always, dear friends, if you have some comment or a question that you want my reaction on, please put some capital Q up front, or entire question in the capital letters, so that I would not miss it. And last Friday, dear friends, I had some technical issues. I started the stream. I planned the stream, and then due to technical issues, I was unable to go on with that. Natalie D is commenting, West never pays any attention what Iran, Russia, and China ever says, and unfortunately this is true, isn't it? In most of the cases, at least, they just they only listen to themselves. Seems like, you know, they only listen to themselves, and that's it. And this is also dangerous, isn't it? Because they are getting deeper and deeper in that illusional world that they are living in, and therefore it is becoming more and more difficult to have some relevant conversation with them, because I mean, they are just too delusional. Official representative of Russia in economics, Dmitriev, who was in Washington just recently, he said it straight, isn't it, that during the meetings, even representatives of Trump's administration, I mean, during the conversation, you can straight away understand how informed this person is, isn't it? And even representatives of Trump's administration were, you know, just too ill-informed, and they had no idea on a topic that was discussed. And why is that? Because they only listen to themselves, and they kind of end up being hostages of their own propaganda, you know. Nidish Kumar is asking, hello Nidish, hello Michael, everyone, dear friends. Nidish is asking, Levan, what do you think Russia border must be to make it not easy to invade? Can extending till Carpathian Mountains will help? Well, Transnistria, in my opinion, once this conflict will end, Transnistria will become a part of Hungary after some time, because it used to be part of Hungary before First World War. Then it became part of Czechoslovakia, and I guess it will be just from historical point of view if Hungary will return their historical territories. Hundreds of thousands of ethnic Hungarians are living in Transcarpathia. And when it comes to borders, yes, ideally, if Russia will be in control of all of this territory before Carpathian Mountains, that will make it easier from defensive standpoint for us to repel any large-scale invasion, potential invasion from Europe. And last several hundred years, by the way, all invasions practically were from the West, right? Yes, it does make sense, but yet again, I don't think Russia will go that far, or even there is any plans really to do so. I think what Moscow may never say it openly, but I think during discussions they're probably considering to liberate from Kharkiv to Odessa, all of it, maybe some parts of Sumy region, Chernigov region, to have some buffer there, or maybe entire regions, and that's about it. And Kiev and surrounding few regions as a landlocked state should be in a Russian zone of influence, and west of Ukraine under control of NATO. I think that's how Ukraine gonna get divided once this conflict will end, and that will create enough buffer space for Russia, I think, to be, to be less nervous about potential large-scale attack from NATO. That's how it's gonna be, I guess. Nikos is commenting, 5 years start something and you won't use nukes because the Russian government does not want to ruin what they build. One must consider their population. I mean, yet again, Russia did not face their existential threat, for at least for now. Russia's statehood, this is true, isn't it? I mean, Russia is facing significant challenges, but not their fundamental existential threats right now. So therefore, there was no need to deploy nukes actually. But yet again, if I was, by the way, Russian president, I would deploy nukes on the first day, in the first hour. Just don't get me wrong, by the way. If I was a president, I would deploy nukes on the first hour, first minutes actually. I will use 3 to 5 tactical nukes. For example, I will drop them in some forestry area to make sure that there are no casualties, right, among humans. And that will be clear enough message, I guess, for everybody in this world to stay away from this situation. And they will stay away, but well, Russian leadership had different approach, different ideas, and they are in charge, by the way, so it does not really matter what I would do, right? But yet again, if a number of NATO member states will provoke wider war, then I don't think Russian leadership will have much choice, really. They will have to use whatever is necessary, because France and UK are nuclear countries, right? They might don't have thousands of nukes as Russia does and the US, but they still have at least a couple of hundred, right? And it's a lot. It's a lot, by the way, still. And that's why I'm saying that if Russia will have intelligence that attack of these NATO countries that you mentioned are inevitable, in that case, Russia might actually take preemptive strikes to neutralize nuclear capabilities of UK and France and their military capabilities in general, including strikes on military-industrial complex, not just on the militaries. That's what 4 preemptive strikes are, right? And when it comes to population, yet again, I mean, do you think European Union can come up with 2-3 million army? Really? I don't think so. And you should keep in mind that even if all these countries that you mentioned, and some more, by the way, if Spain will join them and Italy will join them and others, if they will even manage to come up with, let's say, 2, 3, 4, 5 million army, can you imagine nightmare that they will face in terms of logistics, in terms of communication even? Because we should keep in mind that these countries are speaking different languages. Mainly, I mean, okay, Germans and the Austrians can understand each other, okay? Germans and at least people that are living in some parts of Switzerland can understand each other, even in France, right? French people can understand half of their Dutch, because that half is speaking in French, another half in other language, right? But still, in general, these countries have different languages. So logistics, communication, everything will be total nightmare, by the way. Nothing to be said about collapse of their economies and overall chaos that will erupt in those countries, because once again, let's keep in mind, dear friends, that there is one say, which is very correct in my personal opinion, that hard times create strong people. Strong people create easy times. I'm paraphrasing, but that's how it sounds, as far as I understand. Easy times create weak people, and weak people create hard times, and circle goes and goes and goes, right? And I think we had quite hard times, by the way, right? My generation, even few generations after me, and all the generations older than I am, we went through quite hard times, and I guess we are just a little more ready psychologically to deal with the hardships, right? While Europeans, I mean, they don't even know what hard time is, man. Majority, I mean, vast majority. Even if in some cities or towns electricity goes out, people are calling psychiatrists, man, or psychologists to calm down. And you're gonna tell me that people that are stressed because air conditioner is not working, those people gonna be really, I mean, fight us, ready to fight us? Come on, man. You know, they can talk as much as they want. They can pretend that they are this tough and that tough, but come on, man. So 3 million of us, I guess, you know, will deal with the 10, 15, 20 million of European forces if they ever manage to mobilize that many. But they will never, of course. But I mean, yet again, this is just hypothetical. But I mean, it is insulting, by the way, if you think that people that are, you know, stressed because of the, you know, electricity went off and they have no freaking air conditioning. Come on, man. One explosion somewhere in 300 meters and those people are all gone with concussion, maybe, or some stress that they will never manage to deal with. I mean, yet again, Europeans never face, for quite a while, did not face no challenges, right? Real challenges. And they are weak, objectively speaking, and they are creating difficult times for Europe. You know, in 30, 50 years' time, when Europe will face the consequences of the actions of their current politicians, and times will become very hard. At that point, European generations, they will be tough. Life will force them to be tough. But now, give me a break, man. That's how I see difference. I might be wrong, right? You know, I'm just sharing my opinion, my understanding. And I may be wrong. I don't know. But that's how I think, you know? Nidish Kumar is asking Levant, will now EU comment on the Bucha massacre hoax? Can you share their UN report here? Oh, they're not going to comment on nothing, dear friends. Bucha was a hoax from the beginning, but Western media, of course, never even tried. I don't know details about hearings in US or report. I know that Russian side for many months was demanding from UN investigation and answers, right? But it was a hoax from very beginning, dear friends. When I saw first images, I don't know about our community, but what I noticed first was this white bands on the hands of the people, on the feet, right? And who was using this white, how should I say, bandage or bandana? Russian side still uses white color to see, you know, to have a good understanding where hostile is and where friendly is, right? But this, and I believe people that were killed in Bucha were killed by Kiev regime's forces, civilians, and they were killed because they were Russian, you know, they were friendly to Russia, Russian forces. They were Russians, by the way. They were killing Russians in their mind, in their sick mind, those Kiev regime's forces. But then, you know, they decided to use this situation for propaganda purposes, and in the West, vast majority still believes that you know, Russian troops, some of the Russian units, for no reason, start shooting civilians there. So it's crazy. But EU is not going to comment on this situation, and I don't think ever majority of society in West will really learn what was happening in Ukraine, not just in Bucha, but in general. In general. But I know a few days ago, Maria Zakharova was still demanding from UN answers on questions that Russia has, and did they come up with a report? I'm gonna learn about it more, dear friends, because I don't know about report from UN. Maybe Maybe they did come up with a report and I missed it somehow. Or maybe they are planning a report to be published. Walsu is commenting, hello Walsu, friend of ours from Finland. Using nuclear weapons first could scare off enemies, but it would also scare off friends and their potential friends. Yes, it would. It would, but yet again, I mean, if someone like me was in charge, most likely nukes would be used already. But yet again, as I said, in some forestry area, just drop it to make it clear for everybody that you are serious. Just for demonstration purposes. You know, I'm not saying to use nukes against even enemy forces. No. I would drop it in some forestry in the very first hour of their special military operation, and I'm quite sure no NATO country would dare to get engaged in this proxy war as much as they did eventually. But it is too late now, isn't it, to have this even hypothetical conversation. It would scare off maybe friendly nations also, although I don't think so. They would understand that Russia had to do what Russia had to do, and they would be friendly anyways, right? So there was an interview of also Walsu is commenting that there was an interview of young British guy who managed to get to Bucha too early, and he said he saw soldiers unloading bodies from lorries and they're dumping them on the streets. Kiev regime soldiers, right? Kiev regime's forces. So it was hoax from the beginning. And one day probably we will see some video footage that have not been published for now, and we will learn more about it. We will learn more about it. But even then, by the way, when there will be million factual evidences that it was a hoax staged by Kiev regime and its Western masters, and I believe BBC was the one Western propaganda outlet, first propaganda outlet who broke the story, isn't it? BBC, by the way, which means MI6, right? So it was a hoax from the beginning, and you know. But even when million evidences will be available of that, Western so-called media will ignore it completely. Michael Kennedy is commenting, UN is a waste of oxygen these days, and well, I could not say it any better. I agree with you. What UN does really, I mean, anything? I don't know. Alexander G is commenting, yes, there were civilians from Donbass that were killed and spread out on the streets days after Russia had retreated. Yes, I mean, who wants to learn about this? I mean, they are trying to get more and more knowledge, and everyone is realizing in that case that yes, this was a hoax. But yet again, question was, will Europe react on it? EU, and no, they're not gonna react on nothing. No. Nidish Kumar is asking Levan, you heard Germany is asking their gold back from US. Will it deprecate dollar? Yes, I see that news that Germany is planning kind of to take back its gold for $120 billion or something. But when I saw that news, I was thinking, you know what, Berlin may want it, but they're not gonna get it. They're not gonna get their gold back, man. It's not happening. It's not happening. I believe France, decades ago, France decided to get its gold back, and they failed. If I remember correctly, members of our community from France can share additional information on that, but I think they failed, and Germany gonna fail. They're not gonna get their gold back. No way, man. But even if they will, I mean, 120 billion of dollar worth gold, 120 billion is not really that much to hit dollar big time, but it will not help U.S. currency. That's for sure. But you know, dollar will still remain relatively strong. Although look what is happening today and in last several days. Trillions of dollars were wiped out from the markets, which is a clearly indicator that these markets were inflated, isn't it? And these developments are also indicator that dollar, even a weak dollar that it is right now, is overestimated. So more such strikes on dollar, like you know, if Germany will withdraw its gold and other countries follow, of course, eventually that will make it even more weaker. But still, dear friends, as long as I mean, dollar gonna remain world reserve currency anyways. It's just too big to fail, kind of. Even if BRICS member states will come up with its own currency, world reserve currency, and hopefully they will, dollar will still be strong enough to maintain certain positions as a reserve currency. So US economy is just too big, you know, and the US influence is still too strong. Also, Nidish is asking, Levan, will Russia allow Starlink into its market after their military support it provided for Ukraine? Oh, I don't know, dear friend. I don't know. I don't even understand why Starlink is still operational and why nothing is happening with the Starlink satellites. I just don't get it, right? This system should be shut down by now. But, you know, me and many other citizens here in Russia, by the way, are frustrated about many things, right? And sometime in the future, we might ask some questions and demand some answers, but now it's not time for that. And you know, when it comes to Starlink, yes, probably they will be allowed in the Russian market, because it seems like Russian government is quite open for idea that companies, even companies that left Russia very badly, do it through some ideological, politicized reasons from 2022. Even those companies are probably will be allowed to come back, maybe under some conditions, but still. So therefore, probably Moscow will not close the door for Starlink too. I don't know, but what I do know is there is a Russian private entity that is working for Russian analog of the Starlink. Several satellites have been tested successfully, and there is high-speed internet was reached. And if this project will have enough investors, maybe some support from state, maybe they will go online, and that will create some reasoning to create some barriers, artificial barriers, maybe for Starlink. But again, I don't think so. I mean, Russian government is just too liberal, and too Western oriented still. Russian elites in general, but which is a shame, but that's the case, For whatever reason, Russia always was struggling with this crazy attitude of the elites that they were too Western oriented, which I never understood really. I mean, what the hell, man? Western elites, to me personally, they are just a scum of humanity. I would never ever respect them, right? And I would not even shake hands with those animals, man. I mean Western elites, so-called elites, they are just disgrace of humanity in my understanding. But for elites here in Russia, historically, especially after Peter the Great, elites for whatever reason are just too Western oriented, which is bad, man, which is a shame. Now things might changing a little bit, and more and more people are among elites are realizing that, you know what, Russia is self-sustained, and there is not really any need to seek some acknowledgement from these so-called Western elites. But I think majority is still on their old ways, when they were quite pro-Western, which is bad, by the way, but you know. So yes, answer is yes, most likely Starlink will be allowed to come back to Russian market, you know. Nikos is, and all the other companies, by the way, not just Starlink, but every company, most likely, that left Russian market will receive not an invitation, but if they would like to come back, probably they will. Russian side may just come up with some preconditions that they have to invest a certain volume in businesses here in the production, which is understandable. I mean, at least you have to require investment into your economy, isn't it, in the production, so that if these companies will do the same trick in a few years' time, at least you will have a production here, right? That can be temporarily, can become under state control temporarily, or given to some other companies for temporary run, as it happened with many manufacturing plants that Western companies were operating with. Russian side didn't allow them to shut down these plants whenever it was possible. These plants control over these manufacturing capacities was given to certain entities, and those plants continue to work. And if owners of these businesses will come back, these Western companies, they will receive back these assets because it's their assets, right? And Russia not gonna steal it. But to continue operating in Russia, they will have to invest significantly more in economy. I guess that will be precondition. Nikos is also commenting, there was a UN meeting about Bucha 2 days ago. They presented all their evidence, and everyone but North Korea scoffed it, of including our Greek representatives. What a disgrace. Oh, really? How I missed that, dear friends? I don't know. I'm constantly checking media, and I don't know how I missed this. Thank you, Nikos, for additional information. Waffengulo in Ukraine. Thanks God, Putin is in power to stand up to NATO. He has systematically destroyed NATO with their power. Well, it would be better if NATO member states never really provoked this confrontation. It never had to happen. The US should not orchestrate this coup d'etat in Ukraine in 2014. US should never get involved in this area, which has strategical importance for Russia, and US should never break the agreement, that Budapest Memorandum. In the Western propaganda, dear friends, you probably noticed that it's Russia that is blamed, isn't it, for breaching Budapest Memorandum, while nobody is saying that it was US actually and the West that breached this agreement when they invite Ukraine into NATO, and then in 2008 that was, I believe, and when they orchestrated their coup d'etat in Ukraine in 2014. It was West, isn't it? US primarily that started all this tragedy. And it should never happen. It should never happen, but you know. Michael Kennedy is commenting, I don't think anyone gets all their gold back of us. I think so too, because I'm not even sure that there is that gold is still in US in some storage. I'm not sure about that, you know. Germany's gold should be in New York. There is I forget name of that place where majority of their gold should be kept in US. What is the name of that facility, man? Recently there was talks in US that some audit has to be done over that place to make sure that gold is there. But since then, no information on that, nothing. And Musk, I guess it was Musk, isn't it? It was joking around even in hopes that gold gonna be there. So yes, I mean, I'm not sure all this gold from other countries that US actually force these countries to, you know, deliver this gold to US. I don't think they're gonna give it back, at least all of it. No way. And I'm not sure they have enough gold in a treasury or whatever that facility is. How could I forget, man? I forget. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about, isn't it? Once stream will end, I will remember, and I'll be like that. Wow, how could I forget? Jerry Kogan is here. Hello, Jerry. I finally caught up with the live stream. Well, great to see you. You know, when it comes to timing of this live stream, I don't really know, dear friends, which time is good. I can do it earlier. I can do it later on, like. But anyways, because our community is from all around the world, no matter which time I'm gonna choose, it would not be convenient for many, and for other part of community, it might be convenient. And if you notice, it's always I mean, same group of people in this live streams, about from 50 to 100 of us. Maybe sometimes a little more, but usually it's just one group, kind of club, that get together during the streams and just shares opinions on some topics, which is great, by the way. Which is great. It really feels like a gathering of the friends, because you know, more I work on this project, of course, more and more I'm getting familiar with the nicks, right? And when I see, as you know, I read comments, isn't it? And I may not click that hard sometime, but I read comments always, and you know, it's always nice when I see familiar nicknames, by the way. Jerry Kogan is commenting, we don't hear much about Ukrainian bioweapon labs now. Does Ukraine still control any of them? I don't think Ukraine was ever in control of those labs. It was US Air Force. Formally, it was US Air Force labs. As it is the case in Georgia, for example. There is a biolab in Georgia too, in Tbilisi, on outskirts of Tbilisi. And that lab was financed through Air Force. And that's why many people were raising questions. I mean, why militaries are involved in this, right? It makes you think about the risks. And I think it was a similar case in Ukraine, and the militaries, US militaries, were running this operation. And I guess some of the laboratories probably are still there, maybe in Western Ukraine, somewhere, maybe even in Kiev, who knows. But according to last reports that I remember about these labs, many of them were moved into Africa. According to reports that I see, many of the labs, and there were dozens of them in Ukraine, many of them were moved to Africa. And African nations should be very careful when it comes to these labs because, I don't think they were for good reasons there in Ukraine or in Africa or in Georgia or in any other country, by the way. I mean, whenever you hear biolab and militaries, I mean, it's a warning straight away that something is dodgy, something dodgy is happening there. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, maybe they're silently store it in Israel. Biolabs, or what we are talking about. I don't know about Israel, by the way, but I mean, Middle East is another headache, isn't it? Tragedy, I mean, huge tragedy for this world, and situation may get even worse, isn't it? If US will go ahead with this strike on Iran, wow, let's hope they will not do this, man. Let's hope. I believe, ideally, I really see potential that US, Russia, India, and China can be the backbone of the stability for this world. EU is out of the conversation, but I mean, potentially, if US and Russia will work out current issues, I mean, we don't really have much reasons, by the way, to be hostile. Objectively speaking, if both countries policies of the both countries are based on national interests, then in that case, we don't really have reasons to be hostile. In Europe, that's a different story. Europe is dozens of countries and dozens of so-called elites and globalists, by the way, that never cared about national interests of any of the countries, right? So Europe is a big mess, different story, but US is a state. And it's really sad, man. It's really sad that globalists managed to overtake. Really? Family members are telling me that Duran is here. I missed it. Hello. Hello. And thank you very much for your attention. Is Duran channel is here or Alex or Alexander? Anyways, even if admins, by the way, from Duran, they are all great people, and thank them all. My thanks to all for attention. What a nice surprise. And so, yes, dear friends, I mean, if you ask me, I really hope somehow Moscow and Washington will sort out the issues, and there is plenty, isn't it? Oh, I see Duran. Hello, everyone. Like this live. Help Levan grow. Thank you very much for attention. Truly grateful, and always will be. Members of our community, especially veterans, do remember that it was Duran that invite me in the show, and that was a huge jump for me, and not just in terms of developing the program, but in terms of confidence also, because when you are recognized by Duran, that means quite a lot. That means you are doing at least something interesting. Maybe not always, but at least sometimes you are doing something interesting. So thank you very much, friends from Duran. I appreciate your attention. And so, yes, I mean, who knows, dear friends, maybe one day we will manage to overcome the issues, and the Russia, US, India, and China will make a backbone of the future security of this world. And other countries also, with cooperation with other countries, obviously. Nidish Kumar is asking Levan, are Western food chains source their raw materials from their countries like KFC, Subway, or McDonald's? Are use Russian farms for raw materials they need. Yes, I believe practically everything that, with the exception of some formulas, maybe, maybe they have some formulas that is top secret, all businesses do. But in general, when it comes to food, they were sourcing stuff here in Russia. And that's why when McDonald's went out and when they sold basically their chain here in Russia, it did not take much longer before all the restaurants of McDonald's become Vkusna and Tochka. Because their basis for this business was located here. Everything practically, right? And some might argue that Vkusna and Tochka is even better than McDonald's was. I'm not a food critic. I cannot tell you. But yes, that's what people say. And also KFC called now Rastishka, I believe, or Rostix. And family members are laughing at me. Rostix, yes. And same story there, because their base was here in Russia. They transformed very easily. It didn't take long. So yes, that's the answer. And now, when McDonald's or KFC will try to return, how are they gonna establish themselves again on the market? I don't know. I mean, they're gonna struggle big times. And many other companies, by the way, from the West that play Russian market, when they try to return, they're gonna face some challenges for sure. And not just in the food segment, but in many other segments. Because, for example, recently there was reports that Renault, French auto giant, wants to come back, and they might. Russia would not close its door, I believe, but market is full, right? When Renault left, AutoVAZ, that was a partner with Renault, had to overcome some challenges, right? And they did manage to do so. And meanwhile, Chinese companies overtook the market. And now if Renault or South Korean brands or German brands will try to come back, they're gonna struggle big time. Many of them, maybe not all of them, but many of them will. Levan, maybe they silently. I already commented on that. Jason Rogers is commenting, if Israel has nuclear capabilities, it is absolutely essential. Iran and Turkey has the same. Israel's modus operandi is greater Israel. They will genocide the Arabs and still land there with the US assistance. Well, Israel, according to reports, according to rumors, because very few people knows for sure, Israel does has nuclear weapons, and I think resolution here is not to turn Iran and Turkey or Saudi Arabia into nuclear armed countries, but to denuclearize Israel. I think that is the way to go, to denuclearize Israel. And if world community is united, if that's even possible, then one day Israeli leadership may actually realize that yes, they have to agree on that. Otherwise, all the countries that they are hostile with gonna get the nukes. So there is an argument there potentially for Israel to denuclearize itself, to transfer nuclear weapons to, I don't know, US, let's say, right? And in history, there was such examples, by the way. South Africa had nuclear weapons during the apartheid, right? And they agreed on, and South Africa agreed on denuclearization. So something like that had happened in history. Something similar potentially might happen in regards to North Korea. if somehow, sometime in the future, relationships in that part of the world will normalize. And I think Israel should undergo denuclearization also. That is the way forward. I don't think arming, I don't think nuclear Iran or Turkey or Saudi Arabia or, I don't know, Jordan will increase security in the region for anybody. No. So Nidish Kumar is commenting, Israel tested their nukes in South Africa. So, I mean, you see, so most likely it is a factual. Israel does has nukes, and I see potential in the future, of course, not right now, but sometime in the future. I think theoretically, at least, it is possible that world can persuade Israeli leadership to denuclearize, so that other countries in the region with which or with whom Israel don't really has a great relationships, those other countries will not seek nuclear weapons. This is their argument, isn't it? And now we clearly know that these countries are capable of that. Iran can build atomic bombs, at least basic atomic bombs, if they want to. I don't think they will, but they can do it if they want to. Turkey will be in a position to build nuclear weapons, atomic bombs, if they want to. Give it like 15, 20 years, and Saudi Arabia, as far as I understand, also seeking for now civilian nuclear energy, and there are some talks even with the US, isn't it, on that matter. And technically speaking, Saudi Arabia may also be in a position one day to build their nukes. So why would Israel want that, right? So if some general agreement will be reached in the region to really de-escalate, then yes, potentially Israel may agree to transfer its nukes to US. So, dear friends, I guess, sir, I did answer to many questions, comments. David King is asking, will Philippines be next Ukraine? Here, USA empire arming them to fight China. I hope no. I hope no, because I mean, it's not gonna end well for Philippines, isn't it? And ideally, with with help, with assistance of some other countries, hopefully relationships between China and the Philippines, China and Vietnam, China and some other regional countries there will improve, because hostility is bad for business, by the way. Hostility, we should acknowledge, all of us, that China is a reality. And their dominance, economical, in some ways political dominance of China will continue to increase, because it's a major superpower, right? Economical superpower. It is going to become, already is basically military superpower, and we have to just acknowledge this reality, right? And I don't think it is in the best interest of any country to, really ignore what is happening and just try to act tough. They're gonna lose more. That's how it is. They're just gonna lose more in that case, or everything. And that's why I'm saying it is better to cooperate. But US, yes, US neocons, Western ruling class leadership is quite hostile towards China, because they see China as a major threat in regards to dominance. And well, unfortunately, most likely they will go ahead with escalating with China, which is bad. But yet again, ideally, that's why I said just a couple of minutes ago, ideally if some adequate people, I mean, if for 2, 3, 4 terms in US, there will be adequate people in the government, I think Moscow and Washington can overcome all the or majority of the issues that we are facing, which will put US in a position that they would not be that paranoid about China, because good working relationships with Russia will give US this break, kind of, because US will have a good working relationships with Russia, with India, and then take a look at the map. So it will be some sort of a break for US. They're not gonna get paranoid too much that China gonna overcome everything and everybody, right? Or establish control over their entire world. No, there will be some sort of a balance, right? But for this to be reached, US has to be run by adequate people for decades, because let's say there is a one term of someone that is on a positive policies, let's say, right? But if after 4 years another administration comes in and destroys all the achievements of previous administration, what good is that for the world, right? And after all, China was a superpower and the main powerhouse in the region for quite a while, in history, and China did not really act as a expansionist empire, right? They had all the opportunities to really occupy just about everything, but they didn't. They just didn't, right? So therefore, maybe this is also too exaggerated, that this idea that China gonna become a major superpower and they're gonna dictate to everyone everything. I don't think so. But in any case, if India, Russia, and the US are in a good working relationships, Russia and India has strategic relationships, by the way. We are strategical partners, so this is not an issue. But US is a different story. Russia has difficult relationships with US, and India also has quite difficult history of relationships with US. And but if these relationships will improve and reach a good working level, then China will be kept in check, right? And the world will be much more stable in that case. Maybe I'm mistaken, by the way. I don't know, but and even then, I don't really think China is dreaming about overtaking the entire world. Why would they need that? For what? Oh, Nidish Kumar is commenting. Levan, congratulations on ice hockey legend. Will Russia participate in the Winter Olympics this time? Oh, thank you, Nidish. And well, I also congratulate everybody who loves hockey. It's a great game, by the way. After football, in my personal opinion, after football, hockey is the next great game. Then basketball. To me personally, I know in different parts of the world it's different. So yes, thank you for congratulations. And when it comes to Winter Olympics, well, soon they're gonna be new head in the International Olympics Committee, and that person, it's a female, it's a woman. She already said, I believe, that it would be good if Russia will go back to Olympics, but yet again, I don't know. This organization, International Olympic Committee, is just too politicized, and I'm not quite sure they will act adequately, and Russian athletes will have opportunity to compete in Olympics. But it might happen. I mean, things are changing quite rapidly nowadays, and theoretically speaking, yes, it might happen that in Winter Olympics, that gonna happen in next year or year after. Probably Russia will participate, although, I mean, you know, it all depends on International Olympic Committee and their policies, really. And Green 44 is commenting, Olympics are political, we need a new organization, and I'm 100% on the same page, dear friend. Olympics, International Olympic Committee is discredited, and either other organization had to be created that will organize Olympic Games, real Olympic Games, without politics, or then some alternative games have to be created by their national sporting federations, because everyone knows that Olympic Games are just too politicized, too ideologized, and used for indoctrination of their people worldwide. I mean, what was this last Olympics in France, by the way? I mean, horror story, right? Horror story, embarrassment for humanity, really. So why would any country want to be part of it? I mean, I don't know. So therefore, I think, yes, either new organization has to be created that will organize Olympic Games, or we just have to come up with alternatives. BRICS may do it, why not? Although national teams, by the way, national federations all around the world may just get together and agree on something, right? To create some alternative games. Yes, Michael Kennedy is commenting, politics should be out of sport, and of course that's how it's supposed to be. Can you imagine you are working hard all your life, and Olympics was a peak of the career, isn't it? I mean, if you are Olympic medalist, that's crazy achievement, and finally you are on top of the game, and you are in Olympics team of your country. You are going to Olympics, and there are no teams from this country and that country that have top sportsmen, top athletes in this field. And even if you won the gold, I mean, is that gold has the same meaning as if all teams did participate, all top athletes, and you beat them all? Of course, it's not going to be the same, right? So that's why sport should be out of politics. These athletes are training whole life to reach their maximum level, right? And when some politicians, some propagandists and that kind of people are ruining their events, sporting events like Olympics were destroyed, then it's a shame. Carlos Gaspar is commenting that Chinese population is going down. Yes, it is true. China is facing the same issue as Japan is facing. Maybe not as strongly as Japan, but it is the case in China too. And China is getting older, basically. It's true, and it is going to be issue sometime in the future for all the countries, by the way, that are in that position. That's for sure. Bjorn Baron is commenting, Russia banned from international sports, yet Israel competes despite the genocidal government. Yes, I mean, it's an argument, isn't it, also? And that's why I think, and I'm not in support of banning Israeli sportsmen, by the way, Israeli athletes. No way. Because politics is a politics, and sport is a sport. Sport should be out of politics. Mike, I agree with Michael absolutely. I mean, we should have opportunity to enjoy games that we like, and to upload their athletes that are reaching some unbelievable levels, right? Danny DeWall is commenting, I remember the Olympics committee selling the games. They were selling everything, by the way. The good argument might be made that if not investments from number of countries, they would never get Olympics, to host Olympic Games. And maybe all countries are guilty of that. This organization is just too corrupt. I mean, really. And after what happened in Paris, by the way, I don't even see this so-called International Olympic Committee as an organization that should be in charge of organizing any event whatsoever. I mean, it was horrible, horrible. Nitish Kumar is commenting, Levan, they are trying to remove shooting in the next Olympics along with the boxing and weightlifting. Seriously? I mean, this is crazy. I mean, I didn't know that. So, I mean, you tell me, dear friends, I mean, what kind of Olympics games it's gonna be when they're adding something that is not by many being seen as a real sport. But okay, let's do it. But they are removing box and shooting and weightlifting. This is crazy, man. I did not know this. Thank you for information, Nidish. I did not know this. I mean, they are even more crazy about the way that, And Danny there, Wall is commenting, sport are, yes, breakdancing. I mean, Nidish, exactly. That's what I meant, by the way. I mean, breakdancing in Olympics. You remember that Australian woman that did some incredible stuff there. I mean, okay, I'm not gonna say that I'm against it or something. I mean, if people enjoy that, okay. But if you have breakdancing as an Olympic sport, then how are you gonna remove real sport like I don't know, weightlifting? It's crazy, So is it really Olympics? I don't know. And also, by the way, I mean, as Danny DeWall is commenting, sports are tool of the wrong side. Men boxing with a woman. Nobody said anything. Well, there was a protest about this. But I mean, in general, this gender fluid nonsense that is being pushed by globalists and their assets worldwide is crazy, of course, and wrong on all possible levels, obviously. And that's why I think sport should be ideologized and depoliticized. Just a pure sport competition of their athletes that spend whole life to reach their peak of career, and people worldwide should enjoy this sporting event. That's how it's supposed to be. Sport should unite people, not divide, as it does right now. David King is commenting, West destroyed the Olympics. Yes, I mean, globalists, I will say globalists and this and their assets that were pushing all kind of crazy ideologies. Because I think majority of the people in the West are also outraged by what is happening. And our conversation is an example of that, isn't it? And Nitish Kumar is commenting, Levan, they brought in cricket for Olympics just to attract more viewers. USA don't have a single world-class cricket stadium. It is true. It is true, of course. Cricket is big, very big in India, in Pakistan. UK has a decent team, by the way, also. Some other countries, but definitely not the US. But still, by the way, it's a big game. So therefore, cricket should be in Olympics. and should be popularized. Why not? I mean, hundreds of millions of people adore this game, right? So it has every right to be in Olympics. If breakdance is in Olympics, then come on, you know. But I see your point. Basically, they are struggling to attract people, right? They're struggling for quite a while now, especially since they start politicizing sport big time. So it's declining in the viewership for quite some time now. Even one may argue for last 2 decades, right? So they are looking for ways to attract more people, because more people means more advertising, more money. Basically, that's all they care. So, dear friends, we had a good conversation, isn't it? It's more than 1.5 hours now. Thank you all for your attention, for your comments, questions, for being here, for being here, and have a wonderful day, and see you tomorrow. Oh, Nitish Kumar is commenting, after the Beijing, none of their Olympics is profitable. It bankrupted countries. Yes, also a good point, isn't it? So, dear friends, thank you all for your attention, for comments and questions. And this is it for now. See you tomorrow, and next live stream, if yet again, if there will be no technical issues, is on Friday. So let's hope we will have some positive news to talk about, much more positive than it is now. So thank you all. Have a wonderful day and take care.